worship with you guys tonight. I don't get a whole lot of chances to worship where I'm not part of the service or whatnot, so it's really great to worship with you guys. It's also an awesome way to start out my evening. My husband actually went to CNU, and tonight he's in a hard rock band, and I'll go from here to see his band play very different music from this. But that's been like our mission field since we've been married, and it's a very cool thing. So he plays in dive bars, and never mind. He plays at Haas's Deli up here. It's a biker bar up here on the peninsula. So, but anyway, so I'm pumped to be here. Thank you guys for inviting me. I'm ticked off that you guys invited me to speak in this series. So every time I've spoken at IB before, it has been about my expertise and about my profession. So I'll tell you a little bit about me, but this time Georgia said, hey, speak about something that you've learned and that sort of thing, and that sent me into a little bit of self-craziness. So, all right, so this is me and my husband and our two little kids. Chris and our two little girls, Raya and Sienna. They're wide open. So they're great. It's been super fun. We live in Suffolk, right across from Monitor Merrimack, and I've lived there for 10 years now. Before that, I was living in East Africa. I was living in Tanzania for a few years doing development work. So I work in low-income communities and try to help people get on the ladder to upward mobility, but through Christian discipleship especially. So a holistic biblical view of poverty and poverty alleviation is my thing. So what I do now is that, but I do it in Suffolk. So we have a farm where we grow and sell organic produce. Our workers work on the farm and they get paid for their work, and then we sell the produce and we teach. So they go through 3 different curriculum. One's called curricula. One's called Jobs for Life. So it's interview skills, that sort of thing, conflict resolution, teamwork. Then there's one's called Faith and Finances, and then one's called Getting Ahead in the Just Getting By world. So it's really fun. And this is our farm, some of our people from the last year, and our chickens, and our radishes and beets, and that sort of thing. So that's what I do, and I'm pumped to be here. But as Georgia asked me to speak on this, I was like, okay, what did I learn? And college would set me to this. I have a recurring nightmare about college. So these are all of my college besties. This was actually exactly a year ago this week. We all went to school together. We're still very, very, very close. I went to school in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and these girls are everywhere from Hawaii to one of them just moved back from Japan. So we're spread out all over the world. We're really close. But my recurring college nightmare is not that I didn't finish class or didn't study for something. It's that I have to go. I'm back at college and I have to do another semester, and it's without them. And so thanks for that, Georgia. Appreciate it. Super much want to relive that being awake too. Just kidding. But really, like, college for me was it was good. I knew what I wanted to do out of college. I was telling Kaylee that I did a gap year too, and during that gap year, I really knew I wanted to do cross-cultural missions involving poverty alleviation somehow. Don't know what that means, but so I went to Covenant College for that specific degree in economics and community development. So it was really, really specific. I knew I needed that degree. While I was there, I knew I needed that training, but I kind of hated it. I mean, like I really wrestled a lot with God during college. I struggled with my faith. I questioned my faith a ton during college. I studied abroad while I was in college and had 0 Christian friends for a while. Like, I knew no people who I would legitimately say, I think that you're a Christian. And that really made me kind of rethink everything, which was good, but it was crazy hard. And I had, at the time, I had these girls who were my best friends in the whole wide world, and lots of other friends. I knew what I wanted to do. I still had so many insecurities, and I still do. Let's just be honest. Just recently went back to Tanzania, and I was on this anti-malarial medication that makes you have easy dreams, and it just takes them. And yeah, people are nodding out here. Yeah, you guys are living the dream. Yeah. I don't know what shrooms are like. Never did them, but I swear that some malaria nuts are like that. So all of my insecurities are brought up in every single dream when I'm on these anti-malarials. Like, it's awful, I hate it. But it's good because like, I wake up and I'm like, okay, I have to face my insecurities and my fears and whatnot, so it's good. All right, so that was college for me. As I was in college, I'm gonna stay there for just a second, because she asked me to talk on something, a spiritual truth I learned in college, and a spiritual truth I've learned since college. And I'm going to tell two stories and then kind of tie it all together into one thing here. So, in college, like I said, I really struggled. Super questioning my faith. I grew up in a Christian home, a really amazing Christian home that didn't just like do the right thing, blah, blah, go to church on Sunday. They really taught us to think and to evaluate and to question and to think about things well. Yeah, they weren't the easy answers, people. So I knew the answers. As I'm asking these questions, I knew the answers to tell myself. But I was like, but I'm socialized to tell myself those things. Even the premise of that is messed up. Like, you take sociology and all of a sudden you're like, shouldn't curse because this is being recorded, but oh crap is what you think. And then, yeah, it throws everything into a tailspin. So I was in that tailspin, very much so, and I remember going to a professor, who was actually my doctorate professor, and I go into his office and I'm just crying, and I was like, I don't even know if I believe this! He sat there and listened to me, and he was like, awesome, and you want to do this? Yeah? Awesome. I'm glad this is speaking to some of where people are. So I'm crying, and he looks at me, he's like, Hayden, you gonna be okay? I was like, well, how do you know? He's like, because you're upset about it. If you weren't upset about it, you weren't wrestling with it, if you weren't engaging it, then you might not be okay. I couldn't say with some certainty that you'd be okay, but you want the answers, and like all these questions you have, they don't actually really have the most satisfying answers in the world. Some of them I can't tell you, but keep asking them, and you'll be okay. And I was like, what? So he was right in the end. So jump forward to 2019. I'm not going to tell you what year I graduated in 2006, so a while ago. So let's jump to things fall apart. This was my 2019. I was a volcano that exploded. So my husband and I both work full-time jobs. Then we have these two little girls, and they're awesome, but trying to figure out how to still work full-time and have my kids. My job was awesome. They're like, oh, work from home with your girls some. And that's awesome, but it's basically like, oh, do two full-time jobs and do them at the same time. So I do that, and everything's a little crazy, but it's okay. And then my father-in-law got really ill, and long story short, he came to live with us, and he's bedridden and needs 24/7 care. And we have care during the day for him, but we do the rest. And that was like this whole new thing. And there were a lot of jacked up things about the situation. So anyway, that put this crazy new added stress on it. At the same time, I had years and years ago founded a separate nonprofit organization, and I was still the president of it. And we had wild amounts of conflict in that organization. And one of my best friends was the director of the organization. So I was her boss, I was her best friend. We were having all this conflict. It was awful. I started dealing with anxiety so bad. I had never dealt with anxiety before, but I do a lot of public speaking. I get nervous, but never an issue. I started having to say that I couldn't do things, and it was super freaky. I couldn't sleep at night. I was having panic attacks. It was awful. You know, I was dealing with it and trying to figure things out, but I said for a while, I was like, it's too much. This is all too much. It's just a question of like, when am I going to explode, and who is it going to be, and how bad is it going to be? So it happened, totally happened, sometime in July, I guess. And I lost it and cursed all of the people out in front of my small children. It was awful. I could see myself from the outside looking in, and I was like, she has lost her brain. And I had, completely lost it. It was horrible. I literally, that volcano was it. It was like things stacking up, pressure building up, and I lost it. So we were just doing way too much, and it was awful. All right, so through all of this, I'm trying to figure out what am I supposed to be doing? I'm trying to do the right thing. It was wrestling. It was messed up and messy. So jump to the next slide, I think. So that just brought me back to this college experience, and this passage in Genesis that I read over and over and over again. And my sister and I, when I was in college, we would text each other. This was back when you had a bar phone. They were sweet, man, because you could text under, like, without looking, because you just memorize how many times you have to push the button. You guys don't remember this at all, do you? Sweet. So you could text without looking at anything, because you're just like, oh yeah, like, anyway, I missed them. So we would text each other these bizarro passages from the Bible, because the Bible is weird, and I read this passage now and I feel like, what? I've listened to countless sermons and everybody has some different interpretation of what's really going on, but I love it. So I'm gonna read it for us. So this is Jacob. Jacob is this conniving little jackass who is a twin, and he is a manipulative jerk who steals the birthright, which doesn't make sense to us, but from his brother, and then runs away and goes, and he and his new father-in-law slash cousin have this weirdo relationship of tricking each other and all this stuff. So he is this guy who takes things into his own hand, doesn't do a good job of waiting on the Lord, but somehow is chosen by God to move things forward. So just right off, I'm like, okay, sweet, I'm not so screwed up that God can't use me. All right, so here's where we are in this passage. He and his father-in-law, he knows that he can't stay living with him, but his brother swore he would kill him. So he's like, well, I don't have a place. I've got all this wealth. I don't have a place. I need to go back and make amends with my brother and I. So he sends these messages and all these gifts, and he's like trying to gauge his brother, like, where is he? And Esau, his brother, doesn't say a word. But the message he gets back is, well, your brother's on his way out to meet you with 400 men. That's all he gets. This is the brother who swore, I will kill you. So Jacob fled. All right, so the night before, he divides up all of his wealth and he like sends it across the river, and he's like, okay, I'm gonna like try to protect everything and manipulate the event so there's minimal damage and figure this thing out. Like, I'm taking control. And he's left all alone. So that same night he arose, took his 2 wives, and so he sends them all across the river, right? And Jacob was left alone. And a man wrestled with him until the breaking of the day. When the man saw that he did not prevail against Jacob, he touched his hip socket. And Jacob's hip was put out of joint as he wrestled with him. Then he said, let me go, for the day is broken. But Jacob said, I will not let you go unless you bless me. And he said to him, what is your name? And he said, Jacob. Then he said, your name shall no longer be called Jacob, but Israel, for you have striven with God and with men and have prevailed. Then Jacob asked him, please tell me your name. But he said, why is it that you ask my name? And there he blessed him. So Jacob called the name of the place Peniel, saying, for I have seen God face to face, and yet my life has been delivered. The sun rose upon him as he passed Peniel, limping because of his hip. So what is going on here? This is crazy. Commentators agree, by and large, that whoever he wrestled with was God himself, because he says, I have seen the face of God. So he spends the entire night wrestling with God incarnate somehow in a man. And then God says to him, let me go. And he says, I'm not going to let you go until you bless me. Oh, also, his hip socket's out of place during this time. So he's not going to be a good wrestler, but he's just like holding on. He doesn't care. He's just going to hold on. Because he wants a blessing from some guy that he wrestled with all night? What? So seriously, what? All right. Then he changes his name to Israel. So Israel means one who strives with God. So, okay, first of all, why in the world is he so determined to get a blessing? What is this blessing? Second of all, he says the blessing is that his name is changed to the one who strives with God or wrestles with God or struggles with God. That's the blessing. We think of a blessing like, oh, here, you can may you live long and prosper, or may you, right? Like a blessing of, I pray peace upon you. But the blessing was that you struggled with God. So let's go back to blessing for a second, that next slide. Because I just thought, what does blessing even mean? There must be something different in the Jewish culture. Can you jump to the next slide, maybe? Sweet. Okay, so I spent a lot of time looking at what does blessing mean in the ancient Jewish culture, right? Because it clearly doesn't mean what we think it means. There was a practice of blessing. When you say goodbye to somebody, you give a blessing. And they actually believed that a blessing is, there's power inherent in the words themselves. So if I say, may the Lord be praised, in those words themselves, God actually is praised. He is glorified more just by me speaking it. So there's actually power in the blessing. When people would bless their sons or their daughters or the food, they believe there's power in it. It's not a prayer to the Lord, it's actually power in the words themselves. Now, there was a lot of mysticism and that sort of thing tied in with all of this, but they believed the words themselves, and there was effect and power in this, which is crazy. We don't really think that way. We just use them as, I'm trying to show you what my heart is thinking, so I hope you have a great day. But this was totally different. Three other ways to think of it. To bend the knee to present a gift. So the word for bless is very closely related to the word kneel in ancient Hebrew. And there's this idea of kneeling in order to present somebody a gift. So that's humbling yourself to give someone something else. So the blessing actually involves one person giving of themselves to the other person. Another way to think of it is favor. So when you're seeking a blessing, you're seeking a favor of someone. Think of like a guy asking for a girl's hand in marriage. He goes to the father and says, can I have your blessing? I want your favor. I want your approval on this. I want your goodwill. Or invoking the benefits. So if you are seeking God's blessing, you actually want the benefits of the person of God, of God's actual being, to be on you. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So that's what Jacob's saying. Like, I know that there's something crazy going on here. And I'm wrestling, I'm trying to figure out life, and I want to know that I have your favor. Because I'm about to go and potentially get my entire family killed. I want your favor. I'm seeking you in this disaster. Okay, let's jump to the next one. And what does wrestle mean? Because seriously, what are two people doing wrestling all night? That doesn't just, I just don't understand it. Has anybody seen the movie Warrior? You guys have to go tonight and watch the movie Warrior. All time, one of the best movies ever. It's about two brothers who are MMA fighters. Seriously, none of you have seen this movie? I almost put a clip in this because it's so good. I watched it again last night and so freaking good. Okay, watch the movie. Alright, so in this movie, it's two MMA fighters and they're brothers and they've been separated for years and years because when their parents split, one went with the mom, one went with the dad, and they both rise to this championship separately. And in the end, they're competing with each other, right? So it's these two brothers and they're just locked wrestling. And I'm imagining this and doing that all night long. It's very much like watching that again last night gives me this really great view. So striving, grappling, competing. So the word wrestle has this ancient meaning of what wrestling meant in that day was a competition, just like wrestling matches are today. There's this competition of who's going to win here. Fighting, it indicates intensity and personal nature of the spiritual conflict. That was in Matt Henry's commentary. It's so good. So they're together, like they're touching each other all over the place. They're locked in, like it's really personal to be wrestling. They're not sword fighting where you're not touching each other. They're wrestling. And then another passage in the Bible where it says wrestle is Ephesians 6:12. For we do not wrestle, we don't strive, we don't grapple, we don't compete, we don't fight against flesh and blood, but against rulers, authorities, cosmic powers over the present darkness, against the spiritual forces of evil in the heavenly places. So hopefully that just broadens our idea of what this blessing means and what it means to wrestle. Sweet, let's move forward to the next one. All right, cool. So, yeah, jump forward to the next one. Awesome, Lion King. Thank you. So, what is the Lion King? Okay, have you guys seen the Lion King?
Yes.
Yeah? Okay, cool. So you guys are like a G-rated crowd? Just kidding. No, warrior's not inappropriate. So what in the world does the Lion King have to do with any of this, right? Well, here's the thing. God's blessing to Jacob was this. You are the one who wrestles with God. As a child of God, God's blessing to us is we get to wrestle with God. God deigns to wrestle with us. He is not a God who is far off, removed, not in relationship with his people. He gives us the blessing of being able to wrestle, struggle, strive, contend with him. That's crazy. He's an all-powerful God. That's crazy. But that's the blessing. So when he gives Jacob, our father, by spirit, that blessing, that changes Jacob's entire trajectory. Now, he was a messed up dude with a messed up family, but the Israelites forever, even today, Jews say, we are the sons of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Right? Like those three guys, they're the patriarchs of Judaism and then Christianity. That's who we're talking about here. And so struggling with God is the blessing. But it's super duper hard. It's exhausting, it's sweaty, it's painful, it's rough, man. Struggling and wrestling is super duper hard. So here's where we are. I think about this, the Lion King, and I think of, so Simba's got this struggle. Actually, I like the Lion King also because it has a lot of Swahili in it. That's what they speak in Tanzania, and Simba actually means lion. So you've got three different ways to deal with conflict, struggle, turmoil, questions, doubt, all this stuff. You've got Scar. So let's jump to the next one. Scar is very much like Jacob was in the beginning, right? He's like, I don't like the way it's going. I'm taking it into my own hands. I'm going to handle it. So he's trying to take the throne. He's having people killed off. He's stealing things. He's trying to steal the crown, much like Jacob. He's cynical, he's angry, he's resentful, he's power grabbing, he's attacking. That is an unwillingness to actually engage the struggle itself. It's saying, I'm not going to deal with things your way, God. I'm just going to take it into my own hands and handle it. Another, not super modern day example of this, I'm reminded a lot of Che Guevara. You guys familiar with Che? And he was a revolutionary who overthrew, in his passion for justice, just starts overthrowing and slaughtering people. So yes, he wanted justice, but he didn't quite struggle for it. He just kind of slashed and burned. So similar things there. I'm going to do this. I don't care if it's the right way or not. This is the results I want. Then jump to the next one. Your next option is Pumbaa and Timon, and they're Hakuna Matata. There's no worries. It's escapism. It's lazy. It's indifferent. It turns into purposelessness. It's saying, I'm not going to engage the struggle. It's too hard. F it. I don't care. I'm not going to do it. It often involves self-medicating, denial, avoidance. I think of Bob Marley with that. This is really funny in Tanzania. It's really, really common for people to have a Bob Marley bumper sticker next to a Che bumper sticker. I was like, do I know who these guys were? They're polar opposites. So those are two opposite sides of the spectrum of how you could deal with any sort of conflict or questioning or issues. It's not really engaging the struggle. It's either trying to leap over the struggle and not deal with it, or just run away.